Hi, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to put your pool pump on a timer. Here is the wire connected to the pool pump. This is the motor, and as you can see it's a live, neutral and earth. Now the wire then is fed into a DB board, and I'm going to now go to the DB board and show you the settings for that. If this is a new installation, please use flexible cable. As you can see, this is a solid core cable and it should have been flexible. Okay, the cable is then coming here and it's going in the conduit into the ground, and it comes out the other side where the DB board is. Okay, so on the DB board side, I'm now going to show you how to install a timer. The particular timer I'm going to be showing you happens to be the CBI timer switch, and I'm going to show you how to set this up. On this timer switch you can see it's got a live, neutral and live. It's a very easy timer to set up. Now the first thing you'd want to do is locate the circuit that you're trying to control. Now in this case, here it is. This happens to be the pool pump, and there is the neutral. The neutral is already connected to the neutral bar. So all that needs to happen now is the live, which is in your case probably connected to the circuit breaker already, needs to be disconnected from the circuit breaker and allow this switch to come into play. If this is a new installation and you currently do not have a circuit breaker, please consult an electrician in terms of matching the circuit breaker to the motor. My particular motor has it's a 6 amp on load motor, so at least a 10 amp circuit breaker is required. The circuit breaker is still required even if you have a timer switch, the reason being that the circuit breaker is a protection device while the timer switch is not. That means that if there's a fault on the motor, the timer switch offers no protection function, meaning it will not disconnect the load. All it will do is look at its timing sequence and switch it on and off according to the program. While the circuit breaker, if a current that is above, in this case 10 amps, if there's a current that is above 10 amps wanting to flow here, the circuit breaker will trip. Right, so the method of connecting this particular timer switch is as follows. Locate the wire that would be going to your pool pump. Now in this case, here it is. This is the live wire, and you're going to put that directly to the bottom of the timer switch. There we go. Right, so this is the output. As you can see, it says their load. Now this timer switch only requires another live and a neutral, but this particular live is very important. It must come from the output of the circuit breaker. So that means you'll have to have a wire that looks something like this. Now the size of the wire is very important. This happens to be a 21 amp circuit breaker, meaning it can carry a current carrying capacity of a maximum of 21 amps. You will need to match the wire to the load. For example, my load is only requiring 6 amps. This wire can carry 20 amps, so this wire will be sufficient, particularly because the circuit breaker is 10 amps, which means that this wire can easily carry a higher current before this circuit breaker will trip, which means the circuit breaker will protect both the wire and the load. Now, if you are going to install a 30 amp circuit breaker, then you will need to use a much thicker wire, and you'll also need to look at a stronger timer. So you need to match the timer to the application. Now, because this is a pool pump and the current is less than 10 amps, keeping in mind it is a motor, so it's inductive, and I can use this 2.5 millimeter cable. So this goes into the live point over there, and I just tighten it, and the other side of this gets connected to the output of the circuit breaker, which is for your pool pump. And in this case, it happens to be just a 10 amp circuit breaker. So if I recap the wiring, you can see coming from the earth leakage, it feeds back into the rail here. Now this is live. When you switch this on, current will flow through there into the timer switch. When the timer switch operates, it will allow current to flow through the relay, coming out there, going to your pool pump wire. This is the pool pump wire. Now the final step is just to connect the neutral. Now the reason why it requires a neutral is this timer switch requires current, a little bit of current just to power itself, because it's got a little super capacitor in there to store the programming when the power goes off. So you can think of it, it's like a battery that has to be charged, and this thing needs its own neutral. So I'm just connecting it to the neutral rail at the top, and just find an available slot. Right, even though you see me working with my bare hands and the earth leakage is in the off position, it does not mean that there is no voltage on this DB board. For example, look at this. As you can see, there is 247 volts sitting here, even though these circuit breakers are down. Now I'm going to switch it on, and I'm going to switch on the circuit breaker for the pool pump. And there you can see this timer switch waking up, and it's now ready for its programming. This particular timer switch is a touch screen, and what it requires you to do is to first set the time. You'll set it with a clock, and I have a complete video telling you how to set up the timer. So I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to go and activate this timer. There you can set your programming sequence. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to put in a bypass mode, which means I'm just going to manually operate it. And you can see that now I've bypassed it, which means that the timer is now in the on position. And I don't know if you can hear, the pool pump is now activated. There you can see the pool pump is now operating. Now just for your reference, I'm just going to show you what is happening there. When the current can flow from your circuit breaker into the timer is in the on position. You can see it says they're on. It effectively is shorting out that terminal to that terminal. And that is why my meter is saying beep, because it's telling me there's a dead short between the incoming current terminal and the outgoing load terminal. If I switch the timer off, you can see that now I'm seeing 240 odd volts there, showing me that the timer is in an open circuit condition. Even though the circuit breaker is still in the on position, the timer has blocked the current flow, meaning that the timer is now controlling when the pool pump will go on and off. So you'll just set your timing sequence there, and there you go. If you're finding that you cannot put the cover back on because the CBI timer is a bit fatter, the reason for that is the timer fits on both the Samite and the DIN rail, because those circuit breakers are a bit thicker. As you can see, they've made it to match the wider circuit breaker. However, the CBI does have the option to pull off the little cap there, so you can pull off this little spacer to make it thinner. As you can see there, it is thinner. Alright, so that is how you connect the timer. Thanks for watching. Cheers.